I am posting from my phone, so apologies for weird formatting or bad grammar. When I was 18, I was living in a small town. I was friends with the ratty skaters around, and they helped me connect with this dude who sold weed. He was 29 at the time and gave me pretty good deals and lived nearby. I wasn't driving at the time, so this was convenient for me. His name was Max. Max has always struck me as a weird dude, but I honestly quite liked his weirdness. Not in a romantic way or anything, but I like weird people. We had normal weed buying interactions that never lasted more than 10 minutes. Buy some weed, maybe smoke a bowl, that's it. He'd often tell me he could drop it off at my house, but I never let him because, as I said before, he was weird. I wasn't afraid of him, but was definitely aware that he and his offers to deliver were weird. One day in May 2018, I was invited to a bonfire by the same ratty skaters that introduced me to this guy. I had no idea he'd be there, nor was it important to me at all. I brought the guy I was dating at the time. I said hey to everyone including Max. We stayed for a couple hours, and some of them played some music on their guitars. Nearing the time I was leaving the bonfire, around 11 p.m, Max was getting upset about something and threw his guitar in the bonfire. I didn't know what he was angry or upset about and paid no mind to it. This happened as I was leaving with the guy I was dating. I went to bed and woke up to paragraphs on paragraphs of crazy texts from Max, ranging from 1 a.m. to 5 a.m, like a constant stream of texts, stating things such as, "You know how much I loved you. You are a cruel individual." He would go back and forth between saying, "I would give you the world if you'd let me, and you really do deserve him though." He said really scary things like, "You are a predator and should be snubbed out. Just wait, and you are stuck. I will either love you or hate you to the fullest extent my powers behold. Right now I pay the worst death on you and that idiot." To top it all off, he said losing you is like losing a mother to me, and told me to tell him I never loved him and that I wouldn't hear from him again if I did. So that's what I did. I said, "I never loved you. Do not message me again," and left it at that. I didn't get a response, nor did I care to get one. Max had never expressed any romantic interest, asked me out or anything. This was all out of nowhere, and he was 11 years older than me. I was barely 18. That night he cut his long hair off and posted photos naked on Facebook, curled up in fetal position, talking about being a statue of shame. It's as if he had a breakdown. But I had no intention of causing that and didn't think I would even offend anyone by bringing the guy I was seeing. Everyone else seemed to like the guy I brought. About a week later, Max texted me pretty late at night and asked if I had seen the flowers he spread along my sidewalk, saying that he stole every flower in the vicinity of my neighborhood that night. I asked how he knew where I lived and said I hadn't seen the flowers, so he must have had the wrong house. I also told him he shouldn't do that as I never felt anything for him, and so on. He told me that he had heard I lived on the same block as another one of the skater guys we were both friends with, and he wasn't wrong. The skater guy I lived by was on the other side of the block, and I never walked that way, so I never saw the flowers. I blocked his number and didn't hear from him again for weeks. Weeks later, I woke up after a rough night, and there were loads of flowers on the sidewalk right outside my house, along with a little bouquet at the top of my walkway. I was pissed. I wasn't scared yet, and stupidly I unblocked his number and texted him asking why the hell there were flowers outside my house. This confirmed that this indeed was where I lived. I still to this day feel so stupid for texting him and making it known that after weeks he had found my house. He responded saying, "Sounds nice." It was me. I called him out basically and blocked his number again. About a week later, I was out of town and my roommate texted me a photo of a heart with a peace sign inside of it, and my name written under it drawn in chalk outside our house. When I got back into town, I went to the courthouse and began the process of getting a stalking order against him. When I left the courthouse, I went to Max's work and told him he needed to stop this behavior and that he was stalking me. He looked me in the eyes with no facial expression and said, "If you don't leave, I am calling the cops." I got angry and said loudly, "Call the cops. I was just talking to them about you," and left his work in a rage. Soon after this, I began driving again. I once drove by him and he noticed it was me. The next day, I woke up with my car covered in flowers. I presented my case to the judge, and she put the stalking order in place. He was served with it by police officers. And I thought that was that and he wouldn't be bothering me again. I was wrong. After the stalking order was served, he made several other chalk messages on my sidewalk, left random gifts for me like chalk, and beheaded my little pony heads on beer bottles. I always brought these things to the police station, but they said I needed to catch him doing it, take a photo, or get a security camera. So I got a security camera and really hoped I would catch him. It turned out my security camera was stupid and I couldn't just watch the videos it took but had to skip through second by hand. It was an impossible task. I was terrified of leaving my house at night at this point. I never had my curtains open anymore, and I was so frustrated that my livelihood was being taken away from me. Ultimately, I unblocked his number in hopes that he would text me directly violating the stalking order, and after a few days, it worked. He sent me a weird text saying something like, "Forgive me. We are charming, this is harming. Let us try again." By now it's September 2018, and he finally goes to jail. He is facing up to a year in jail, and has to stay there until our court date. I finally start calming down. I am able to go outside at night, even if just to get in my car. I let myself have my curtains open sometimes. I am starting to feel alive again. Right when I start feeling secure in my small town life again, someone posted bail, and he was released after only 3 months in jail. And I went back to living in fear. We still had court dates coming up, and I was optimistic that he would serve more time for ruining my life for so long. His lawyer kept pushing the court date back to gather evidence. And after about 6 months of pushing it back, the state decided he wouldn't do anything more and closed the case basically. I had moved out of town 3+ hours away at this point, so he didn't actually have an option to continue this behavior. Living in this new place, I feel safe. I can walk at night and don't have to have my curtains closed all the time. It's been over a year since they decided to close the case. About a month ago, he began responding to my friends' Instagram stories, friends that live here in this new town, telling them how fond he is of me. I have always had him blocked, but my Instagram isn't private, so he must have found them that way. I have since changed my account to private, and he hasn't messaged any more friends of mine. I refuse to be fearful now, the way I was then. He will never find where I live or where I work now. However, my life is forever changed after this experience. I will always be more aware of people and their weird energy. I will always close my curtains early in the evening and make sure all the windows and doors are locked. I will always live a little bit in fear, maybe not of him, but of it happening again. He ruined my life for a year, and I truly wish he had gotten that time in jail. He deserves it. So Max, let's never meet again. Update: when I say they closed the case, this means we had no further court dates and he wasn't sentenced to a year. He was served with the stalking order, which is stated earlier in the story. The stalking order is permanently in place. This was not the part of the case that was closed. I said case closed for lack of knowledge of a better term for this. I don't know where to start exactly, so I guess I'll just start from the beginning. It was November of 2020 and I was lucky enough to celebrate my 21st birthday in Vegas. I was so excited to party in Vegas, but the best part of the trip was that my godparents got me tickets to visit Zach Bagans' Haunted Museum. While other kids were busy watching Disney Channel and Nickelodeon, I would curl up with a blanket, snacks, turn off the lights, and watch a new episode of Ghost Adventures. Needless to say, I am one of their biggest fans. Anyway, before the tour, you must take an oath, and you must sign a waiver, basically stating that if anything happens to you while taking the tour, they're legally not responsible. One of the many things that is listed on that waiver is that something could possibly follow you outside the museum, and I think that's what happened. One of the exhibits is a mirror that had reportedly witnessed a brutal murder. If you want to know more, the YouTube channel Entertainment Tonight did an interview with Zach about his museum. They cover the mirror and a few other exhibits. Highly recommend to check it out if you want to know about it. Anyway, the mirror is always covered, and guests can say if they want to look into the mirror. Guests who have looked into the mirror have reported seeing shadow figures behind them or next to them. Me on the other didn't see anything. At least that's what I thought. It was a week after we got home from Vegas. I was home alone. I was sitting on my bed working on some homework on my laptop, when suddenly I see something in my peripheral vision. I look over and noticed it came from the direction of my mirror. In my room, there's an oval mirror with a golden trim hanging on my wall. I've had this mirror ever since I was little and nothing weird has ever happened to it before. Until I visited the museum, I just ignored it and went back to doing homework. However, a couple minutes later, I see something in my peripheral vision again. I looked back to the mirror, but nothing was there. This continues, only in my mirror, for a month. I would never see it completely in my vision. I would only see it in my peripheral vision. After that first month, it started to appear in all the mirrors in the house, and sometimes any reflected surface. And like before, it would only appear in my peripheral vision. It didn't take long for my parents to notice this thing either. They also say they only see it in their peripheral vision too. Whatever this thing is, it seemed to really only stay in mirrors, so I eventually got used to it. It lasted for about a year and a half, until about a couple of months ago. I thought it eventually left, but boy, I was wrong. I was up really late one night, and I was watching YouTube videos. It was completely dark in my room except the light coming from the laptop screen. And like it happened before, I see something in my peripheral vision. By this time, I thought I had forgotten what happened, so I ignored it and went back to watching YouTube. A couple of minutes pass, and it happens again. This time I turn on my lamp, look back at the screen, and wait to see if I was just imagining things. Then of course it happens again, and the memories from over a year ago start coming back to me. However, this time, when I saw it in my peripheral vision, it wasn't in the mirror. I saw it in my closet. There is no door on the closet. It's been that way for many years, and I've never seen anything before. There's a top shelf, and I have the shelf stuffed with boxes. At first I thought it was the boxes, but then I realized the boxes are white, and whatever I'm seeing is a completely black shadow, so there's no way it can be that. Right now as I'm typing this, it's 3:08 a.m., and I've already seen this thing a few times tonight. I don't know if I should record my closet tonight or what. All I know is that I'm terrified and I don't know what to do. When I was 7 or 8, my family went to the beach and rented a room. We had the kind of rooms where you rent out both, and they connect through a door. Like there's the doors to leave the room, and the doors to the other room. And the room connected to ours. There was this army family, military dad, some kids, and a wife. My older sister was supposed to be watching me as we were down at the jacuzzi during the evening, as we're playing and hanging out, and just having a good time. I didn't get out much, was naive, and all around a little kid. We're both white-skinned, blue eyes, and blonde hair. This mom literally sits in the jacuzzi with us. She starts talking to us, and is just making herself real comfortable. I was very naive as a kid. Eventually, we start talking books, and she is talking about her kids who are never even seen, and we're just having a good conversation. Really in depth, I felt like. My sister decides she wants to go back to the room, but I don't. I wanted to stay and talk with the mom, so my sister goes back to the room, and now it's just 7-year-old me and some 40-year-old woman. It should have set off some creepy alarms, but did not. So she starts talking about going and walking on the beach. It's like 10 p.m. She wants to go walk on the beach and get shells. I thought it was a great idea. I'd get to walk on the beach at night. I felt so free and like a big kid. I didn't need my sister or anything, so I run back to the room to tell my grandparents that I'm walking on the beach with Sue, or whatever her name was. I remember my grandmother reading her book, barely listening to what I said. She just chewed me off. It is important to know I didn't live with my parents, so I start walking down the creepy motel corridor. Really was a dark, dim stairwell at a cheap motel on the beach, so I'm going through the stairwell like something out of a movie. Too bad I'd never seen this movie. So I'm walking through this stairwell, the mom's way at the bottom telling me to hurry up and this and that. While walking through the stairs, army dad comes running hauling ass to where I'm at. He told me, "Your mom is calling you." "It's really important, we gotta go," and basically grabbed me by the wrist softly, not aggressively, and led me back to our room. He knocked on the door and explained what had happened. I never thought much of it till about a year ago when it came back to me. This woman was leading me away to the beach alone at night, and this army guy got a terrible feeling in his gut, so he intervened. When he said my mom was looking for me, as I don't live with my mom, it set off some alarms in my head. That's when I realized something was up, so I didn't resist going back to my family. As a kid, I knew since he was saying my mom wanted me, it was important. I just knew something was up because I don't live with my mom. I'm now 20 years old, and I truly believe that mom was trying to lure me away to do God knows what. And this army dude had a bad feeling and saved my life. Thinking back, I get such a bad feeling all throughout my body. I know now I wouldn't have made it back from that beach trip. Thank you, army dude. Your gut feeling and having a watchful eye saved something terrible from happening. That woman was creepy, and I never saw her kids. Update: I was either 7 or 8. Not trying to switch it up on y'all, I'm just telling an old memory I haven't thought about in forever. Sorry for the confusion. Update number 2: I feel as though she was working with someone trying to take me somewhere. Not so much that she was the predator, but was working with a predator and was taking back her prize, because she was adamant about getting me alone on the beach on the other side of the pier. I remember following her like in a trance. No warning bells. No, hey, this is a terrible idea, nothing. Just innocence and planning what I wanted to do with my shells. Almost like the quiet was a warning sign too.